Today we are going to discuss our third session, and here we are going to discuss about Android UI, right, and Android activity. So this is how I'm going to create a basic Android application, right? So I have opened the Android Studio, and then I'm going to select this templates. So I'm going to use this basic activity. I can also use this add no activity, right, or empty activity. So let's go with this empty activity. Today we are going to discuss about activity and UI. But before discussing about activity, I just want to give you a basic demonstration on UI. I want you guys to learn basics about UI. Then we will move to activity, right? So let's tap here in the finish. It's building Android. So there are two things. One is layouts and second is UI, right? So we will discuss about two things, layout and UI. Then we will move to Android XML, and then we will see what means by layout and what we when I say UI or a component, right? So let's open this whiteboard. And for meanwhile, we are discussing this thing. Let's run our application in Android emulator because this will take some time. Okay. So there is two things. First is layout, and second is, let's say, UI component. And one more thing is view. So in Android, to create a view, we have two ways, right? So either we can use XML and either we can use Java, right? So first we will learn how to create a view using XML, right? Because this is the most recommended way to create a UI. Parent class, right, of every view. I will show you the hierarchy. Parent class, right? So parent view is the parent class of every view. Like in Java, the parent class of every class is object class, right? And here, the parent class of every view, there are many types of layout, there are many types of UI component we will learn here. And their parent class is view class. I'll show you the hierarchy in a few minutes. For now, let's learn what is layout and what is UI component. So let's say if I am going to create a view, right? Let's say this is my mobile, and there are two things. First is the mobile screen, right? So let me draw this, and let's say this is a mobile screen. And on the top of it, we have our application. So mobile screen, and on the top of this, we have our application. Let's say this is my application, right? And let's make this red. Mobile application. So this red one is mobile application and this blue one is mobile screen. Now, whenever you run your application, your mobile application is going to cover, or you can say occupy, the whole screen of its parent, right? Now, who is the parent screen of my mobile application? Obviously, this mobile screen, right? This blue one is the parent. Now, this parent screen of mobile is, or you can say the mobile screen of mobile is actually controlled by Android operating system, right? This is not a part of your application, but this mobile application and this screen, which is going to cover your whole mobile screen or whole parent, is actually your mobile application screen, right? And this is the layout. This is your layout of your mobile application. And what this layout is doing right now, this layout is occupying the whole screen of mobile screen, right? Or you can say the mobile UI or mobile displays occupying the whole screen. So you can say this is wrapping up, or you can say this is matching up the parent screen. I can say this layout is matching width and matching height, right? This layout is matching width and matching height of its parent. And who is the parent? Parent is this mobile screen, right? This is the parent. So this is the first thing. This is the first thing, which is we have a mobile screen, we have our application screen or application layout, right? And here what I'm doing is, or here what mobile application is doing, it's matching the width and matching the height of its parent. And who is parent? Parent is mobile screen. Now let's come in. Let's come again to layout, right? Let me again create a new layout. This is my layout. This is layout of mobile application, right? Now you know that what is mobile screen and what is mobile application screen. So this is my layout. Let's say a container, right? So now points come. What is actually layout? So here you have seen that it is something which is a container, right? Which is the area where you can draw something, where you can add something, which is capable of adding multiple views, right? So when I say capable of adding multiple views, that means, let's say if you're creating a sign up screen, right? Let's say username, and let's say this is your screen, username, and here it is password, and let's say this is your button, sign up, right? So now here you can see that this is a layout and this is able to connect, or you can say contain multiple views. Layout is also a view, right? This layout is also a view, and this UI component is also a view. They both are the child of view class, but layout are capable of containing multiple views at a time. When I say multiple views, that means buttons, text view, edit text, labels, all these views, right? You can see these are the components, right? UI components which can contain by the layouts. See this, and these are the layouts. They all are the layout: constant layout, grid layout, frame layout, linear layout, relative layout, table layout, right? And these are the views. So if I say that, okay, I want to add a button inside a button, this is not possible, right? You can't add a button inside a button because this is a view. Now, if more thing comes in a picture, and which is view group. All layouts are child of view group class, and view group is child of view class, right? When I say view group, that means a class which is capable of containing multiple views, right? So you can also say this, if this is a view group, right? This view group can contain multiple views. Let's say v1, v2, v3, and v1, v2, v3, that means any views like button, checkbox, label, edit text, right? So your view group is capable of containing multiple views, but this view class can't contain multiple view. Inside a view, you can't add a view, but inside a view group, you can add multiple views. This name tells that view group. That means this is a group of views. View that can't contain a view inside a view, right? That will give you the exception like circular dependency error, and it can also give you the error of like this child view has already a parent view, right? So this you'll get this error whenever you start working in the view. But for now, the most important thing is to understand what is view group, right? What is layout, and what are the other UI components, right? So this is our layout, which is a child of view group, right? And this layouts, there are many layouts, right? And inside the layout, we can add multiple views, right? So that we can create a screen like login screen, sign up screen, any other screens, right? And the views, the UI components, they are the building blocks, right? Like this, we are creating this UI with this added text, label, and buttons, right? So they are the building blocks. So whenever you are creating a layout, or whenever you are creating a layout using XML or even Java, first you have to create a layout, right? And inside a layout, you can add your views. And one more thing is here, inside a layout, you can also add other layouts. Let's say if I want to add a layout inside a layout, I can do this, right? If I want, okay, this is the first layout, and inside the second layout, create one more layout and add this views, right? So this is a very basic concepts, and let me show you the UI here in Android Studio, and let me show you this text, right? And this is using this constant layout. I'm not going to use this constant layout for now, just because this is a customized layout, and I just want to explain you the basic layout first, then we'll go to this constant layout. If you see this constant layout, right? This is a new UI, new layout, which also extend view group, right? This has some layout width, layout height, constant bottom, top. So first we will discuss about linear layout and relative layout. Then we'll go to this constant left and constant right things, right? Okay, so this is a layout, this one, right? Let me show you the preview also. This is the layout. This is a top layout. See this. Let me change the color. Let's say background. See this. This is the whole layout. Right, I have given the background color, and this is my text view. Let me check. Let me change the background color of text view. Background color, let's say primary. Right, so this is my text view, and this is my whole layout. So inside this text, inside this layout. Okay, so this is your layout, and this is your view. Now coming back to this screen.
Here view is a parent class and a view group is a child class of the view. What are the examples for the view group?
Okay, so we have many layouts like the linear layout, relative layout, and table layout, constant layout, right? So we will discuss. In a few minutes, I'm going to create a demo, and there I will give the explanation on the view group class.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
This view group, we can have multiple view groups, right?
Exactly. Inside a view group, you can add one more view group, because see, the parent of view group is view, right? And in the same way, like you are adding views inside a view group, you can also add view group inside a view group. Let me create a UI. So before going forward, let me explain you this XML, what that means. So this is the XML format, right? Extensible markup language. So this is actually a format which we are going to use here for creating a UI, and explain you here how XML work. There's one more thing which is which I want to explain you. See, we are creating XML here, right? But internally, we are creating objects, because here in Android Studio or in Java or in Android, everything is object, right? And this XML is not going to create any object. We need Java classes for this, right? And what XML does here, this makes our life simple. How? See, you want to create a UI, right? So instead of creating a new object of layout and a new object of relative layout, or you can say new object of view group, and add these views by like creating a button is equal to new button and then adding button to the parent layout, what we do, we gives mapping. We say, okay, we want to create a layout, right? This name may be any relative layout, anything relative layout, or let's say linear layout, right? So we say we have a layout, and this layout has some properties, right? We have a layout, and this layout has some properties, right? Layout, and layout has some properties, like its width, its height, its background, context, background color. There are many other properties as well. And inside this layout, we have some views. Let's say a text view, and this text view also have some properties. So what we are doing here, we are just giving a mapping. See this text view tab, it close here. Then we have Android layout width, Android layout height, Android text background, this thing, right? I'll explain you what that means in the bottom of, in the to left of, to right of, to parent of, right? And this is a text view, and this text view has some property. And see, this text view is inside this layout, right? So what actually happening is, we have a layout, and layout has some properties. We have a text view, and text view has some property. Now in runtime, what happen is, in your activity, we have a method set content view. Actually, this loads r.layout.activity main. I'll explain you what that means. R file, what is R file, and what that means activity main. But for now, just understand this in a way that this method load this XML file, right? Now, when this method loads this XML file, what internally happen is, your Android read this whole XML, right? Read this whole XML and find the class. It find, okay, I have to create a class of text view, or you can say object of text view, because it start parsing it. When I say parsing it, that means it reads every line, this line, then this line, then this line, right? And it first it find the parent tag. It find, okay, constant layout is the parent tag. Create an object of constant layout, right? Then it set the property in the constant layout, that height, width, background, context, right? Now it find this parent has some child. It find, okay, this parent has a child text view. Then create an object of text view. Now create this layout, and now set the property width, height, text, background, right? And these other property, right of, top of. If it finds any other properties or other views, it will do the same. Now, what it does, it add this object inside this object, right? It add this parent view, or you can say this, add this child view inside this parent view, right? So how this is how it's work. It's we create the XML, it internally reads the XML, and it's internally set, or you can say create the objects and set their properties. And if you have a view group as your parent object, it will add your views inside the view group. So this is how XML work, right? So what we are going to do here is, we are only setting the properties here, or you can say we are only mapping the properties in XML file. The rest of the thing is done by Android itself, right? So let's create a UI. We are not going to use this constant layout. We are going to create a relative layout, the simple one first. This is also a simple one, right? But I want to explain you the things step by step. So I will explain the relative layout, then I will explain you the not the relative layout, linear layout. Right? First I will explain you linear layout, then I will explain you relative layout. One more thing which I want to explain is, whenever you create a XML, see, you can also create your own XML, but see, creating a XML, that means you are creating a mapping. Let's say I have an Android at one side, I have a XML at one side. When I say that, okay, create an object of constant layout or create the object of text view, then that means your Android should know the meaning of this XML, right? Because if I create my own XML, how this Android Studio is going to understand that, okay, what this key means, what this key means, right? See, these are the keys. Actually, these are the keys which are defined in this Android file. And where is this Android file? Android file is here, right? So basically, this is the XML and how we create the XML. So whenever you create XML, you should have to give XML namespace. This is the XML namespace, right? XML namespace is nothing, it's just a definition of your XML, because you have created your XML. This XML is created by Android Studio itself, or you can say the Android itself. So they have to give the definition, right? So this is the definition of this XML. Definition means that, like, you have these names like constant view, text view, layout width, layout heights, and many things. What that means, right? So all the definition are written here in this R. And this first line is the version. You, like, it's specifying that version is 1.0, and this is going to support encoding UTF-8. So this is the character encoding, what encoding it's going to use. So we are using UTF-8 format, and this is the namespace of Android app, Android tool. So with Android, we are also using two more namespaces, which is app and tools. See, here we are using app, and here we are using tools, right? You can also create your own namespace, but I'm not going to do this for right now. Okay, so let's remove this and create a layout known as a linear layout, right? First, let me explain you what linear means. Linear layout is simple layout. Linear means, let's say, this is my layout, and when I say linear, that means, let's say, this is your horizontal, right? Linear, that means linear we can draw the linear things in two ways, right? Either horizontal or either vertical. So we can create linear layout in two ways. First is either horizontally or either vertically. So when I say I'm going to create a linear layout, that means I'm going to create, or I'm going to add inside my layout either vertically or either horizontally. Simple, right? So let's draw this here. Okay, so let's create a linear layout. So what I'm going to do is, instead of making linear layout as a parent, I'm going to create a linear layout inside a layout, right? So what I have told you is, we can create a layout inside a layout, right? So, okay, before doing this, let's do one more thing. Let's create as layout an external file. Then I will edit this. So if I want to create a layout, just go to new, right? And select the resource, go to new, Android resource file, tap this. So I want to create a layout, select layout, right? And you can give your name, let's say Acadgild linear layout. Let's say 1, 2, 3. You can't use this 1, 2, 3. So I will try to use this things like no capital letters, and no numbers, only small letters and this hyphen. Don't want to give any root element. Okay, root element is required. So linear layout, let's create this linear layout. Linear size key. So this is the thing which we are going to use, visit.linear layout, right? So we are going to use this visit.linear layout. Okay, so the other thing is, what we are using here is Android width is, right, layout width is match parent and layout height is match parent. See, this is the same thing which I explained you here in this here in this last, here, match width and matching height. That means your view is going to match your width or match your height. This is the same thing. This view is the parent one, and right, and this is and here we are going to, okay, so this is a width and this is a height, right, and this is a match parent and this is a match parent. Now let me create a button. So how to create a button? First let's create an edit view, edit text, edit text, right? And let's say this is a match parent and height is, let's say, a wrap content. So we have two components. First is match parent, second is the wrap content, right? This is your edit text. Let me give some hint and do one more. Let me do one more thing. Increase the size. Okay. Hint means the text which will be show inside your edit text, right? And this text will be gone when once you start writing. So let's say hint is let's create a new hint in a string file, right? So we are going to add this in a string file, and this is the way how to denote the text from the string file, the same string file which we have discussed in our first session. Let's say enter, let's say enter username, and this is not exist. So what we will do, we will create this, right? Alt enter, you have to we have to press alt enter. It will give you the option create value resource enter username, because this string doesn't exist in this string file. So let's tap this. The resource value is enter user name, simple. Okay, right, now if you see this string file, we have this enter username, right? Come back, enter username, see here, enter username is now showing here. Now if I want to change the color, let's say text color hints, let's say color accent. See, the color is changed now. This is the color of hint, not the color of text, right? Okay, let me create one more edit text, and before creating this edit text, what I want this edit text to take some space from left and right and from top, right? So let's say we have one more thing which is known as margin. So I'm going to give margin from left, and let's say my margin is 20 dp, right? See, it's now taking a space 20 dp from left. I want to copy this line to the next line, so press your Control D and change this left to right. Now it's taking a space from left and right both, and now I want to give the space from top, and then I want to give space from bottom, right? So now it's taking space from top, like from every 4 sides. Now I want to copy this and I want to paste this. Now what's happening is, see this, I have created 2 views, right? But it's only showing me one view. Let's change this name to enter password. Create this password. Enter password. Right, where is enter password? It's not showing in the screen, right? So we have 2 things or 2 attributes in linear layout, and what it is either you can show your UI or views horizontally or vertically. By default, everything is horizontal in linear layout. So it's showing this edit text out of the screen, right? We don't want to show this out of the screen. So what we are going to do is we are going to check the orientation, and we say, okay, now make your orientation vertical. By default, it was horizontal, so I want this to take vertical, right? So enter username and enter password. Simple. Now I want to create one more thing, and before creating this button, right, let's do one more thing. What is, see, this linear layout is taking space from left, right, top, and bottom. So if your view is taking a space from all 3 sides or 4 sides, you don't have to give these things. Just say layout margin, it will automatically take space from all 4 sides. But if you want to specifically give this space from top, left, or any side, then you have to define top or left. If you want to give space from all 4 sides, there is simple, just give layout margin. For linear, for enter password, I don't want to, let's say if I don't want to take a space from top, because this is already, username is already taking space from bottom, so we can remove this. Right now it's only taking a space from 3 sides. Enter username, enter password. Okay, now create a button. This is my button. Let's say width, wrap content, and this is also wrap content. Now what I want is, I want to add a text. Android text, and I want to give this from string, let's say login, right? Login is not present, so create the login, simple. Okay, See, this is now showing on the left. I don't want to show this in the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say layout gravity center horizontal. See what this layout gravity means. This layout gravity means gravity is something which say where your text is going to show. There are two things. First, in the layout gravity. If I say the gravity of this layout is center, let me check gravity of this layout center vertical. This whole screens now moves to whole view now moves to center. If I say the gravity of this layout is top, or let's say bottom, this whole layout is now moved to bottom. Simple, right? When you say gravity, that means the content which is inside the view or view group is going to move in the gravity which has specified. I have specified bottom, so it's going in bottom. If I specify center vertical, that means the center of this vertical screen. And if I say center horizontal, that means the center of this is of this screen, right? So here I'm going to say that I want to show this. Let's say top. By default, it is showing in top. So if you want, you can also add top. But by default, it is showing top. So let's make it in this way. Okay, now this is layout gravity, right? So there are two things. First is gravity. Gravity, that means the gravity inside the view. If I say gravity of this button, that means if I say gravity left, see this login is moved to left. This login is moved to left and top. If I say gravity left and center vertical, see it is now in left. This is now in left and vertical. If I say gravity left and bottom, see it's now moved to bottom, right? If I only say left, it will show on the top left. Every view, by default, every view will show on the top left of the screen, right? This is the default feature. This is the gravity. Gravity means the gravity inside the view or inside the view group. The gravity inside the component. When I say layout gravity, that means the gravity of this layout. That means this view is saying, okay, I have to assign myself, right, on the center vertical of my parent. And who is the parent? Parent is this linear layout, right? So this is your button, and this button have two properties. First property is left, right? Android left, Android gravity left, and it is also showing the layout gravity is center horizontal. That means the gravity according to its layout. So it's showing on the center horizontal. If you want to say I want to move on the, let's say, bottom. Let's say it's already the left. Let's say right. It will move to the right, but I want to show it on the center horizontal, right? So two things, gravity and layout gravity, right? So now I have removed the gravity from this login button. This is our first screen. Let's run this screen. Let's see how it's look. Okay, so my mistake. We have to show this screen. So let's go to your main activity and change this activity main to linear layout, right? Because this is the entry point. Let's rerun. Okay, this is how your screen is going to look. The username, let's add a username. Let's add password. See, now it's showing the password field as simple text, right? Let me come back and to screen and let me create one more view inside this linear layout, right? I'm going to create one more view, one more linear layout. Okay, now I'm going to create views. I want to explain a new concept, and now I want to explain you the weight, right? So come to this screen and let's say this is my button, and let's say I have text. Okay, let me show this UI. Let's say I have image here in this map. So this is how we can set the background. I say the background, and I want to get image from this map folder. So I write at the rate map and IC launcher. I have an image here in this IC launcher. Now copy this and paste it here. And I have two images. Background map and let's say background map. Right, so I have 4 images of background map. Now what I want these screens, or you can say I want this images, right, to take proper space or equal space horizontally, right? So in my word, equal space horizontally. And who is the parent of these buttons? This linear layout, right? This linear layout is the parent of these buttons. Let me say this linear layout is going to take some space internally, right? There is two things. When I take space from outer side, if this button is going to take space from outer, then this is called as a margin. When I take space internally, this is called as a padding, right? So if I say this linear layout to take margin space, let's say 20 dp, then it will take space from top left and right, right? See, this is taking space from top left and right. Let me check, let me change the background color of this background Android color primary, right? So now this linear layout is taking space from outer side. When I say now don't take space from outer side, take space from internally. Now see, it's taking space internally. See this. Getting my point? It's not taking space from outer side. So this margin and padding, this can be allowed in any view, any any view or any view group, right? You can also add this padding and margin from padding and margin in any other views, like when button and in from this and in this login here in this username. If you want this username to take some space from left, you can say, okay, so let's take padding left 5 dp. This will take, see, this is taking some space from left. If you see this, the alignment is now changed. This is taking 5 dp from left, right? The top one. If I say 15 dp, you'll see the difference. See, now it's taking in space internally. It's not taking space externally, right? So this is the difference between padding and margin. So any query on padding and margin? So this is my buttons. Now what I want to do is I want to give some space. I want to set some weight. Let me explain what weight means. What is weight? Weight is a simple thing. And when I say this is my screen and I want to divide it equally in 4 parts, or this is my screen, I want to divide it equally in 3 parts, right? So either I can divide my screen horizontally or either I can divide my screen vertically, right? There are two things. I can divide my screen horizontally or I can divide my screen vertically, right? So the way in which we divide our screen in some equal parts is known as weight, right? Let's see how weight works. When I say I want to divide this screen in 4 equal parts, this is known as weight sum. What is the sum of weights? Man, it's obviously we will give this weight sum to parent. Sorry, weight sum. I want to divide my screen in 4 equal parts. So I will give, okay, my weight sum is 4. Now, who is going to consume this weight? My child views. So my child views are this button. So now just come to this button and say your layout weight is 1. Your layout weight is 1. So everyone will take equal amount of weight. Equal amount of weight, right? So I have given them equal amount of weight. But see, this is not taking any weight. Why? Because I am saying I am defining two similar type of properties. I'm saying that okay, you have to take this area, this equal amount of area, and on other side I'm saying your width and height are graph content, right? So when you are defining weight, that means you are defining proportion, you are defining ratio, then you don't have to write this width. Why? Why I'm not removing this height? I'm only removing this weight. Oh, sorry, not remove it. My mistake. Make it 0. Right? So why I'm making it 0? Why I'm making width at a 0, not height at a 0 as a 0? Because this linear layout is by default the orientation of linear layout is horizontal, not vertical. Right? So by default this property is horizontal, so I am not changing the height, I am only changing the width, because now my width is working horizontally. My weight is working horizontally. Why? Because my orientation of linear layout is horizontal, right? Now let's make width 0, 0 dp, 0 dp, 0 dp. Now it's look good, right? See, it's taking equal space. And let me give some margin. Margin right 5 dp. Margin right 5 dp. I want this things to take some space from right. right? It's taking some space from right. Now see, this looks good. Now if I want this to take some more area and I want this to take some less area, so what I can do, see the total weight sum is 4. So what I can do is I can say, okay, you take 1.5 and you take 0.5. See, now this screen is looking, this is looking big and this is looking small because I have changed the ratio, right? But remember one thing, give the ratio equal, the total layout weight should be equal to the weight sum of its parent. Now the weight sum is 4, so you can't change the or you can't increase the total layout weight, right? Uh, More than weight sum. So this is how your weight sum work, right? Now let me make it proper. Now one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more layout. Inside this layout, I'm going to create one more layout. So let's copy this and paste it, right? Okay, so let's do now here I have explained you weight sum horizontally. Now I want to explain you weight sum vertically, right? So let's do one thing. Let's give the orientation vertical, right? Now let's see, this is not looking good. Change the background color, remove the padding. Okay, so width is, now I'm showing the weight sum vertically, so I have to keep my width wrap content, right? Because now the weight sum is going to work horizontally, so the width should be wrap content. Now the thing which is what the thing is going to change is its height, right? So let's change it height and let's say 0 dp. Copy this, right, and paste it. Width wrap content, height is 0 dp. Okay. Now, one more thing which I want to do is, instead of showing this background, let's say change the background as a color, and let's say add the red color, or you can say add the red Android color. I'm taking the color from Android color folder, right? Your application also have a color folder. If you remove this Android, it will start taking color from your package, right? So I will do two things. I will create one more color here in my package, and to explain the color of Android and color of your application, I will create color. Let's say color red for, let's say, into orange. Let's change it to orange, right? So this is my orange color. Now come back to your linear layout. I will define two colors, one from color folder of my application, just to explain you like what that means. And second, I will explain you the color from Android folder itself, right? So Android have many folders which you can use. See this color drawable, right? So I'm going to use this color of Android, the default inbuilt color. So this is already present in Android folder, so why should I create a new one? Wait for a moment. Android color, let's say black. Similarly, Android color, Android, let's say dark, and let's say this is Android color, let's say color yellow. That's a green light, right? Now I have 4 colors, and let's do one more thing. Let's make the width as match parent, right? So this is now match parent. This width is also a match parent. This is also match parent, and this is also match parent. See, this whole screens are like taking 5 dp from right, so it's taking 5 dp from right, and the last one is not taking 5 dp from right. So let's see, let's do one more thing. Let's say take a margin top 5 dp, right? Margin top. Instead of taking space from right, take a space from top. Now see, this looks good. This also have to define, sorry, margin top. Okay, so this is your weight, right? First for horizontal and second is for vertical, right? And this is how. So here what we have learned many things. We have learned how layouts look, right? How linear layout works, what width is, what is match parent, what is grab content, what is gravity, what is layout gravity, what is orientation, what is edit text, what is button, what is weight, like horizontal weighting, what is vertical weighting, what is padding, what is margin, how to create a string in a string file, how to use a color file from Android, and how to create color from Android resource, right? So I think this is enough to create a UI, right, using linear layout. Let me run this. Let's see how it's look. It is looking right. So this is just a demo UI. Here I'll just explain you how it's look. So any other query, guys? Now I'm going to explain you relative layout. Okay, so now let's create a relative layout. Before creating a relative layout, let's explain you how relative layout, what relative layout means. When I say relative layout, and this is my layout, let's say relative. See, the first one is the linear layout. The things may be either linear or things may be either like horizontal or vertical in linear. But in relative layout, what actually happen is this is my screen. Let's say I have created a button, and I say this is a relative layout. In relative layout, we have to make position relative to the other views. Other views may be a parent, other view may be a other views, let's say the other button. In linear layout, the every application was creating on the top left, right? But in linear layout, you have to define that the position of this parent is where, on the top of this screen, on left of this screen. By default, it will always create on the top left. But if you are creating two views, if you are creating two views, then it will overlap each other. More than two views, then all of them will be overlap. Right? See, these all will be overlap in linear and relative layout. Because here you have to give the relative position. Now, what I have to do is I have to give a relative position. I have to say, okay, you should draw on the right side of this button, take a relative position of this, take a relative position from this, draw on the bottom of this, draw on the bottom of this, or draw here, right? Or draw on the, or take the relative position of your parent and draw here on the bottom. Let me draw the same screen using relative layout. Let me create a new layout. So this is my relative layout, right? So what I want is, I don't want to use this constraints. So let's remove this and make this widget relative layout. Simple. Okay. Now this is my relative layout. Let me create some views inside it. So instead of creating new views, I am just going to copy this. Right? Let's copy these three views and go here and just paste it. Let's see how it's look. See, this is looking the same way as I told you. It will overlap each other, right? But in linear layout, it was not overlapping because the default property of the linear layout is horizontal, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the relative position to my every view. But for that, when I will say this view to take a space from this view, how this will know that, okay, this view has a name, because I have to give this view a name, so that it can identify that, okay, I have to keep myself on the right of this view, or I have to keep myself on the bottom of this view, right? The way to give a name to every view is giving an ID, Android ID, @ Android ID. That means I'm going to create a new ID with a name, let's say user name, right? Similarly, I'm going to create 3 more IDs, let's say password, right? And the last one is, let's say button, or let's say login. Right? The best way to give the name is always used, whether it is edit text or what, edit text, login button. Okay, now I have to say that now this edit text, draw on the, before that, give this edit text a position, because this edit text will by default this edit text will take by default its position on the top left. So give this edit text a position. Let's say layout and layout below of edit text. And give this button a way, like a position. Let's say this button will use the ID of this and say layout below of password. My mistake. Layout below of password, not password, username. Right now it's look good. So this have to show below of this, below of username and button. This have to show below of this edit text. Right? See, this is now this looks good, but this still have some issue. This login button is not showing on the center. So here in linear layout, you can't use the layout gravity, but let me use this gravity to show you. See, it's not showing the layout gravity here. Layout gravity, because this relative layout doesn't support this layout gravity or gravity. It only supports in the linear layout. So what here we will do is center horizontal. See, align center horizontal true. See, now I have say your center horizontal is true. This is the property center horizontal. Center horizontal of whom? Center horizontal of its parent. And who is the parent? Parent is the relative layout itself. So here we have used the relation of IDs and relation with the relative layout, right? Similarly, we can also use, so this is not in use, so remove this. So the question is how when we will decide when to create a linear layout and when to create a relative layout. So it's on you actually, it's on the UI. If you have some specific UI which don't fits on a linear layout design, then you can go for relative layout. If it's fit for linear layout, then you can go for a relative layout. You will learn these things once you start working on the UI, right? So this is how linear layout works. So now I'm going to move in the activity. I will explain you what activity means, right? Okay, now let's see. Now we are able to create a UI, right? Now let's come on the Java part. This is an UI which we are creating using the XML. Now let me explain you the activity. This is the activity, right? What activity means? See, activity is a component of Android, and basically activity is used to show the UI, right? Show the UI, that means every screen in your mobile application is an activity. The UI which you are able to see is an activity, right? Activity runs on the Android main thread, that process which is started by the kernel for your application, right? So activity have few things. Activity runs on Android main thread, and activity is a component or a class which show your UI, which using activity you are able to view your XML files, right? Now let me come to this activity. Let me close this. And let me open this main activity. This is your activity. By default, it is using this app compact activity. So this is the default. This is the customized activity created for you. If you want to create your class using the base activity, that means the normal activity, you can just remove this. You can also use this using activity. You have to override it. Import it. Right? You can use the activity, but my application support the customized activity class, which is the app compact activity. So I'm going to use this. See, this is a customized activity class which extend fragment activity and app compact callback interfaces. So we'll discuss about fragment activity when in fragment session. For now, this is my main activity which extend the activity class, right? And activity, we have set of life cycles method. We will discuss about every life cycle method in a few moments. For now, I just want to explain you this thing on this method on create view. This method runs, right, when activity opens, right? Let me show you this thing here. See, every screen in Android app is an activity. Activity will always have a user interface. It will not possible to have an activity UI without a UI. Within the lifecycle callbacks method, you can declare how your activity behaves when user leaves and re-enters the activity. Let me explain you this lifecycle method. This is your activity lifecycle. See, lifecycle, that means your application opens, right? You open your application, you close your application. You open your application and then what you do, you open your application, you open a new page, right? That means activity on a top of activity. Let me first draw here. This is the activity. You are, let's say you are doing something, right? And you just open a new page, a new activity. On the top of this, then you again come and you open a new application. You open on the top of this. You again come and you say, okay, now I need one more application to open. So what you do, you open one more application. Right? Now I have 4 applications we open in my phone. If you say it will look something like this. Activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, and activity 4. If I say this is a stack, right? Then the activity which has open first, right? This is the first activity, second activity, third and fourth. This is the first activity, and it is in the bottom of the stack, and the activity which open last is on the top of the stack. Now in our phone we have few things. We have buttons, right? We have back button in Android phone. We press back button. Let's say you have opened 4 screens, right, of a application of a different application. That doesn't matter. You have opened 4 screens in a background. Sometimes you open Android application, you just tap on the menu and you clean the recently used application. What actually these are the recently used activities, right? Recently used views in the same way. And if you think, they are in a form of a stack. The first activity is in the bottom of the stack, and the last activity is in the top of the stack. And when you remove these stacks, what actually happens? The How you remove this tag? Even if you swipe the recently used application, or you press the back button. Even if you press the back button, your stack will be clean. So on pressing back button, the stack of a application will be clean, not the stack of the different applications. Let's say if you have opened a Facebook application, you are in the three screens. Now when you start pressing back button, you will go on the screen, then the last screen, then the last screen, and when the endpoints come and then you press the back button, your application will be closed. So activity place itself in a form of a stack, right? You open an activity, and on top of that you open a different activity, and on top of that you open a different activity, right? So it's making a stack. See this figure. So whenever you open an activity on a top of a different activity, and if the activity is in a background, let's say this activity is in a background, right? I am saying that this activity is in a background. That means this activity is not yet killed. It is still in the memory, right? If it is still in the memory, then it will follow some life cycles. Life cycle, that means, let's say I open an activity, right? Life cycle method of activity will be called. I open a different activity from my first activity. What will happen? My current activity will go on the background. My new activity will come on the top of it. Now, before going to background, let's say you are playing some music, right? Or you are doing some operation. You want, whenever your activity go in the background, you want to stop this stop this operation, right? Then you should have a callback method there. When I say callback method, that means you should know, your class should know that, okay, now I'm going in the background. Now I'm now I'm going to open. Now I'm going in the background. Now I'm going to close, right? Your class should know, your activity should know when it is going to close, when it is going in a background, when it is coming from background to top, right? When it will come to background to top, let's say this activity is now in a background, right? I press a back button and I close this activity. Now this activity will come on the background. This activity will basically close, right? Now if I press a back button, this will quite close. This will come on the foreground, right? So activity can come in the foreground. It can go to the background. It can be finished. It can be started, right? But your class, this is the behavior or activity, right? You don't have to do this manually. You don't have to start your activity manually. You don't have to run the background method manually. But your activity should know when it is going to close, because it might be possible that you have to do some operations. Let's say you are in a page, right? You have and at that time you have three information. Let's say you have a news application, news portal. You open your activity, you have three news in a top, right? Then you move to some other screen, right? Now when you come back, let's say we have four news at that time, or right, or we have five news at that time. Then it is mandatory that you are not going to show the last old three news. You have to update the news, right? Then what we will do, we will send a request to the server. We will get the data from the server. But for that, we should know, our activity should know that, okay, now I'm coming from background to foreground. Now I'm again alive, and again I have to send a request, right? So there is a set of life cycles method of activities so that we can do the specific operations, right? Let me explain you the life cycle method. Then we will write all the life cycle methods in our activity. So do you have any query here? Then if you don't have any query, then I will move to this. I will explain you this. Then we will discuss this life cycle activity respective to two activities. So this is the first onCreate method. So whenever your activity opens, this onCreate methods will be called, right? And then onStart method is called. Then onResume method will be called. Whenever you start any new activity, these three methods will be called, right? And whenever you close your close your activity, let's say you open a new activity from this activity, right? Then on pause method and on stop method will be called, right? When you come again and you say, okay, now I'm going to open, now I'm going to close the last activity, I'm going to open this activity again. That means this activity is again coming from background to foreground. Then on restart, on start and on resume method will be called, right? And if you are going to close this activity in any case, then on pause, on stop and on destroy method is called, then activity will be shut down, right? So let me again explain this. On create, on start, on resume, these three methods will be called whenever your activity is going to start. On pause, on stop, on destroy method will be called whenever your activity is going to kill. On pause, on stop method will be called if your activity is going in a background, not going to kill, remember. And if your activity is going to restart, that means it is going to come in a foreground from a background, then on restart, on start and on resume method will be called. Then again your activity will come on the running state. This is the life cycle method, simple. But let me explain this life cycle with two activities. There are some more things which we have to learn and which is not mentioned here in this diagram, right? So let me explain this. Do one thing, let's create all these methods and let's see how it's look, right? So I already have this on create method, right? So let's create other methods on resume, on start. We will print log and we will see how it's look, right? Sorry. On create, on start, on resume, and then let's say on pause, on stop, on destroy, on restart, right? All of these methods are here now. Now let's do one thing, put a log. See, in Android we have a way to put a log. Log means we want to print something in the console. So log dot I want to give information. We have few types of log, right? So log I, log D, log V, like information, debug, verbose, error. So I want to give an information, right? So I'm just writing log I. Here I have to give a string tag. So I'm going to create a string. Final string, say tag main activity. Okay, this is tag. Tag is help you to identify from where this log is coming, because see, we have more than one classes, right? And so we should know where from where this message is coming. So we have a tag, and I'm going to say, okay, this tag, and this is on create method. Message is on create method, right? Okay, now let's copy this and paste it here, and let's say this is on resume. On start, on pause, on, stop, and this is on, destroy. And this is on, restart. Save this and let's run this. We'll see this in our console. So open terminal, messages, sorry, logcat. So if you want to see the logs, you should have to open this logcat. Let's clean this. See, the first method is on create, on start, on resume. Your application is running, right? On create, see, on create is first called, then on start is called, then on resume is called. Simple. Now let's remove this and let's kill the application. Let's press back button. On pause is called, on stop and destroy. Simple, right? So this is your life cycle. Now, why we got this life cycle? To do our operation. Let's say if you want to do some operation in pause, whenever you are going in a background, let's say you want to stop your media player, you want to do something, you can do this, right? So we have this callbacks method. Now the most important thing is to understand this life cycle when more than one activity come in a scenario. Now we have only one activity, thing is simple, but when two activity come in a life cycle, things will be different, right? So let me create one more activity and I will then I will explain you what I mean to say. New Java class. Let's say second activity. Okay. Now rest of thing I want to copy from this class because nothing is changed. Copy, paste it here. Second activity. So what I want to do is I want to start this activity from this main activity. On a click of a button, I want to start a second activity, right? And I want to show the lifecycle method. So first, let me explain what change will be happen. Let's say I have activity main. Then we have activity second. See, I start main activity on create on resume, on start, these three methods will be called, right, in a main activity. Now I want to start second activity from this screen, right? So what happen is three sets of method are going to call here in the second activity. Simple, that is the same one. Let me copy this. On create, on start, and on resume method will be called on second activity. But my main activity is going in a background, right? So if my main activity is going in a background, what happen is on pause method will be called here, right? Okay, when I tap a button, on pause method will be called on main activity. Then on create, on start, and on resume method will be called on second activity. If on create, on start, and on resume successfully run in the second activity, then only on stop method will be called here, right? Got my point? I am starting second activity from main activity, then on create, on start, on resume will be called on main activity. Then I click on a button, I start second activity. On pause method first will be called on main activity, right? Then on second activity, on create, on start, and on resume method will be called. Now if on create, on start, and on resume successfully compiled, then only on stop method will be called here in the main activity. And then after call of on stop method, your main activity will go in the background, right? And this will come in the foreground. Now you are on a second activity. What you do, you press back button. Now, right, you want to kill this second activity. See, now this is this is main activity, right? This is second activity. Now second activity is going to kill because you are going to press a back button and no one is on the top. So now this is going to kill. This is going to pop from this stack, right? So before get popping, what it does, it will call on a pause on itself, right? Now what will happen? The same process. Now we are coming round way. On pause called in the second activity, and on restart, right? A was in a background. So what will happen? What will happen is on restart, on resume, on restart, and on resume method will be called in your main activity, right? On restart, on start, and on resume will be called in your main activity. If your on restart, on start, and on resume called successfully on a main activity, and if main activity successfully comes in a top, like that means in a foreground, then only on pause, on stop, and on destroy will be called here, right? Got my point? Let me again explain this scenario. I have two activity, main activity and second activity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start second activity from main activity, right? So what will happen is I will tap a button from main activity. I will start second activity. So first on pause method will be called in the main activity. Then on create, on start, on resume method will be called on second activity. If second activity is successfully pushed on the top of a stack, then on stop method will be called on main activity, and main activity will come in the background. Second scenario, now I'm coming back from second activity, right? I press the back button. So what happened is on pause method will be called on second activity. Now on restart, on start, and on resume method called on the main activity. Main activity will successfully come in the foreground, right? And if main activity comes successfully in the foreground, Then on stop and on destroy method will be called on second activity, and your second activity will be closed and main activity will start showing. So this is the life cycle, and this is how the life cycle of one activity is connected to the second activity. If you open a second activity, that means a third activity from main activity or from second activity, from anywhere, it will also connected to the life cycle of the last activity which opened it. If you have a single activity, then things is simple. But if you have more than one activity, then life cycle of one activity is connected to the life cycle of other activity. Let me start activity, second activity from main activity. So this method is the first method which is going to call. So to start activity, what we can do, we have a simple method, start activity. Before that, we have to create an intent, new intent, this, and second activity dot class. So intent actually is a class. This intent class is used for starting the Android components and sending the message between the applications, information between the applications. So if you want to start an activity, this is the intent. You have to tell that, okay, I want to start this activity, right? And you have to pass the object of current activity, which is known as a context, and this is this, and you have to pass the class name of the activity which you want to start. The second method is simple, start activity. Start activity, now give your intent. Simple. Your activity will be started. Then coming classes, we will learn how to start the activity on a tab of the UI. But for now, I just want to explain you these things, right? Like how to start the activity. Now, second thing is, if you are defining a new activity, you have to define that activity in the manifest file, right? See, now in our manifest file, we have only one activity, which is main activity. I want to define my second activity, which is this one. I don't want to define any other things like the intent filter and all these things. So I'm just defining my name of my second activity. If you don't define the second activity, your application will be crashed, right? Your application will be crashed. That means you will get an exception. You will not able to run the second activity. Okay, now let's run the application. Let's see how the lifecycle method hierarchy or lifecycle methods look. So it's running. Okay, your activity is going to run. Let's open the logcat. Okay, see this. Main activity on create is called, main activity on start is called, main activity on resume is called, right? And from main activity on create, I have directly opened the second activity. See, the first activity which is called is on pause. Main activity go on the pause state. Then on create, on start and resume method of second activity is called. After successfully call of these methods, on stop method of main activity is called, right? So this is the hierarchy. This is the, not the hierarchy, you can say this is the way how these life cycles method are connected to each other, right? Now, let me clear this. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to close this, right? See, second on pause method of second activity is first called, then on restart, on start, and on resume method of main activity is called, right? Then on stop and on destroy method is called on the second activity, right? Close this, go back. See this, on pause, on stop, and on destroy method is called on the main activity, right? So now I think it will be more clear to you. So any query,
Yeah, sir. I have a query in a Java file. Actually, could you open the Java file, sir? Here in the intent, while declaring the intent object, their package context is there in a highlighted text. What is the text name and meaning, sir?
Okay, see, this package context, that means the context. Context means from where you are starting the application, right? So you are going to start a new activity, right? So before starting this new activity, you are already in activity. That means you are already in a content view, content, right? And from the top of that content, you are going to start a new content. So before starting a new activity, you should know the last property or last informations, right?
Yeah.
So these informations are actually packed in this context class, right? So when I say this, that means I'm passing the object of last activity, so that whenever I create a new activity, my new activity should know the last position or the last position of the application, right? Got my point?
Yeah, sir. But there we did not enter the package context. It was automatically taken by the
Okay.
Android.
That thing is actually that is due to your Android Studio. Android Studio is showing the what this is. This is a package context.
Okay, and before that also for log I also MSG is there.
Yeah, message is there. Yeah, this is actually the property of Android Studio. It's saying that it's telling you that this is a message, right?
What is the word given for those things, sir?
No, you don't have to give this thing. This is automatically detected by Android Studio. I have not written this message or I have not written this
Yeah.
package concept. This is automatically detected by the Android Studio, right? And this is automatically
I mean
added
to
by.
ask I mean to ask you that for calling the function we have passed two parameters there.
Hmm.
Two parameters. For them parameters is a word. For those messages, what is
Okay, I
the
got your point. I got your point. So this is the way. This is the params. You have to define the params. Let's say if you are going to create a new method, let's say, let me create a new method. Void print name, string name, right? I know I think you want this. Uh, you're asking about this param. Now I want to, if I call this param method, let's say print name method, you're asking about this thing.
yeah, that is, sir.
Okay.
That MSG is coming there. What is
Hmm.
the word that is given in the programming for parameters, class, object, like that? Is there any name provided for that? That I'm asking.
Yeah, so this is the name. This is parameters provided in the definition.
Yeah, that is okay, sir. I'm asking that MSG double colon is there. Yeah,
Hmm.
MSG double colon. What is the name given as per the programming for them? Suppose in a log function we have the parameters. We
Hmm.
as per the programming, those are parameters. And for
Hmm.
MSG, what is the name given that I'm asking? Or for name or package context, there will be some common name will be there, na?
Params message G.
Oh, those are the params.
Yeah. So if
Oh,
you want to create this one as a, let's say, name.
yeah, name. When we calling this print name, that was
Hmm.
not printed before the text here.
Yeah, actually it has to show that might be some issue due to this Android Studio. Let me clean this.
Okay, sir. I will try from my side. If there is
Yeah, try
any,
your,
I will get
ask me if
to
it's
it.
not able to do this.
And I have one more query, sir.
Uh,
Just a second. I have written in my notes. Uh, uh, in the XML file, we have provided some @ symbol plus ID
Let me open this. Yeah, ask.
layout.
Uh,
@ ID. Yeah, this.
uh.
What is the @ symbol plus ID we are using for that, sir?
Okay, so actually we are defining the ID of a view, right? So we are defining ID of the view. That means, but I told you that here in this screen, I want my edit text, right,
Yeah,
to this edit text to draw below this edit text, right? So to denote, to give a name, I need a naming convention. I need a naming of my view. So I have defined this ID. And one more thing I have defined is, see, you have this XML file, right?
yeah,
And you have defined these things here in the XML file, but you need this object here in this Java class file, right? Tomorrow I will show you how we do this, right? So for now, just understand like that I need this ID in my Java class file,
okay,
right? I need this edit text in my Java class file. I need this button in my Java class file because I just want to press tab, and instead of starting this second activity on a start of this on create, I want to start this on a tap of my button, right? So what
okay,
happen is, how can we handle this is, we handle these things in this way, like, let me show you. Let me get the button here. Button, right? Find button view by id r.id dot. See, now I'm going to get the button, login button. Then I have to type constant. Got my point? Using
yeah, right.
this, you can get the object of button in this class file. Now, if I want to make a dot click listener on this button, I can set dot set on click listener new on click listener. And instead of starting this on a click of on a start, I do this on a click of button. Now this is this file, and now this is referring to the click of this object of this button. So you have to write main activity dot this,
Okay,
right?
yeah, sir. And here, find view by ID here. We need to declare with the R. R means resources, sir.
Yes, there is one more thing. R. See, R file. That means this resource folder.
Okay,
And see, there is a concept known as an R file. R actually is a class, right? So when I say R file, that means every resource, every file in this resource have a unique ID or unique memory area. Let's say you have 4 images, right?
yeah,
So if you have 4 images, your R file, or you can say your Android will create 4 R files for 4 specific images. R file, that means the memory area. Why it does? To save the memory, right? Let me show you the R file first, how it's look. So this is your actually R file. So see, your R file is, if you see, every screen, every every ID or everything which we have created is here in this R file, right? If you see this source, I have get this for test folder. If you see the debug, if you see this for debug folder, like for your activity, see, this is your R file which you have created. Let me find the R file for this linear layout. Copy this and paste it here. See this. This is your linear layout, right?
Yeah. And that is a memory location, sir. That is
Exactly. This is the memory location,
okay.
right? If you find the other views, let me find the ID, login button.
Yeah.
Say this is the login button, right?
Yeah.
And you don't need to create this R file. You just define the resource and ID that will be automatically refreshed and automatically auto-generated in the file. So this is here in this build file, right?
Okay, sir.
So this is the R file. So everything, whatever you create in the R resource, it is based on the R file. So if you see this, these are the final statics file, right? String files. So integer file, not the string memory location. So this is your R. So now coming back to this slides, we have discussed these things. We have discussed these things. Whenever to use pause to stop animation or other going actions, right? Could consume the CPU, commit and save changes. Sorry. But only if user expects such changes permanently saved when they leave, such as drafting email in between. So whatever things you want to do before going to the next screen when your application is going in a background, you can do this on the on pause, right? On resume will be called either when your application is starting from the top or whether your application is restarting, right? So we have discussed these things. We have discussed the layout. So this is your view group. Let me show you the proper view hierarchy. Android view. So this is the view hierarchy of Android. So parent class is view. From view we have view group, right? From view group we have linear layout, relative layout, frame layout, another views which is not defined here. And from view group we have date picker, time picker. Like from frame layout we have created these things. From linear layout we have these things. From view we have text view, analog talk, progress bar, image, surface, and from text view we have edit text button, check text view. See, this is the hierarchy. See how is this differentiated views? The parent one, then we have view group, then we have other views. Okay, now coming to this. We have a lot of views. We will start working on them. So now you can see this top buttons, toggle button, checkbox, radio button. I will not go for every view, right? You should have to complete many of. I will go with the important one, right? But there are many other views also, right? So you have to find if anything is missed, let me know, or if you anything is not in the course, then try to do it by yourself. You have to, if you find any doubt, any problem, then you can ask me or you can mail it to the support team, right? Try to complete all of them. And by the way, we will complete many of them, the important one. So we have defined these things also a string. We have learned the linear layout. So you have discussed this thing, how XML layout is mapped to the Java class code, right? Now coming to this method, set content view. Now, see this method, what this method is doing. I'm telling that set content view of this activity, right? I have told you that every activity has one XML as its layout. So I'm saying that, okay, activity, what you do on set your content view from this r.layout, that means from this layout folder, select your screen as Acadgild linear layout, right? So what actually happening inside this content view is, this is doing whole whole lot of things for you. That means that it is going to read this linear layout, create an object of every view, every container like linear layout or buttons. It will add a linear layout. It will add this button in the object of this linear layout. So child and parent hierarchy, which is written here, right? XML file and gen package r.java. It will convert it to the set content view method. Will convert this thing into layout, things to real objects, Java objects, right? So is this method clear now, Venkatesh?
Yes, yes, sir. It means that this is calling this class function, main
Yes,
activity
this
class function.
yes, this method is setting the UI in your activity using this
Okay,
r.layout.ui name.
okay, okay, sir.
Okay, one more thing is pending. Let me complete it. Asset manager. We have one more folder in our application known as assets. This is not created here. Let me create this asset folder. New Android asset folder, right? I want to create an asset folder in a main finish. So this is my assets. I want to add an image, let's say launcher from this bitmap folder. Let me copy this STPI. Let me copy this to asset folder. So this is here, right? This is your asset folder. So basically asset folder is used for, not used for adding the image. Actually, it is used for adding the files. Like, let's say if you have a file, if you have something which you want to keep in the asset folder to load that at a runtime, because it will not create a R file of this asset, R file of this image, right? So it will set a text file, let's say a txt file, if you have any JSON format, and all other things you can keep in this asset file. So to load an asset file, we have a way, right? We have this class input stream dot, then we have to create an input stream, then we can get the asset manager then open. So let me write this code. Input stream get assets. To get the asset manager, we have a method get asset, and then open, right? You can give the open file name. So file name is this. My file name is IC launcher.png. I think open file. See, it's saying that unhandled exception, because it might be possible that you are going to get the image from asset folder and it's not present there. So you have to make this IU exception, because you are using the input stream here, right? So now you have this input stream. Now the second step is to convert this input stream into drawable, right? So what you have to do is you have to call this method drawable dot create from a stream, right? So we have two things. We have the stream name, and the second is the file name, which I'm setting as a null for now. So let's say input a stream, and for now I'm going to keep this as a null, right? So now we have a drawable, right? So the second thing is, let's say I want to set this drawable in my button. So simple thing is, you can set button dot set your background as a drawable, right? That's it. So this is how we can get the image or anything, right? If you have .txt file, .jpg file, any format which support by this Android, you can put it here in the asset folder and you can get it in this way, right? So the main thing which I want to explain here is this is your asset folder, and don't keep the images file here, right? For images you have a resource folder, obviously. Here you can pass the .txt file, or if you have any other file which is not recommended to put here in the resource folder, then you can keep it here in the asset folder, right? So this is your assets folder. And so by this last topic I have done for the day. So if you have any query, you can ask Venkatas. Let me run this also.
No, sir, no query.
Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Acadgild. Average is dead.